Hello, Dr. Brown. Hello, class. This is Valentina Rada, and this is my adult learning observation project, and it's about observing hula dance practice. This is my first time interaction with hula dance. It's actually a Polynesian dance developed in the Hawaiian Islands. It's also called known as the dance of the hands, and it's trying to signify aspects from the nature. Either is the move of the trees in the breeze or the moves of the waves in the ocean. So really quick for this particular observation, I went down to an adult and senior activity center sponsored by the city of San Antonio. It's called Line Fields and it's located on Broadway nearby the university. In here, I could observe it was there were three senior adult learners, one instructor, and everything was in conjunction with a live band orchestra. There was a very inspiring and relaxing atmosphere, given that the learners were also wearing the Hawaiian skirts, and the instructors were very open. Instructor was very open and nice, and I will be talking about her later on in the presentation. But really quick, how the learning was facilitated. It started with the observation. It starts with the observation. We first, as a learner at a dance, we start with observing the read, the direction, the moves, and then we start imitate. We imitate till we assimilate completely the moves, and then we mark. Start with smaller movements because we will see later on. Hula dance is very complex. It's not moving the hands, but it's moving hips and legs. And then it goes farther to our mental stimulation when we start memorizing the movements. It goes even down to segmentation when we work in isolation and repeat. And I even see one of the ladies who is not that experienced, how she would sit back in the corner and she would try to figure out the moves and observe the other more experienced learners. It's also about personal adaptation. We all adapt the dancing move to our personal dancing style. And then obviously it's about repetition. We do as many times as it comes naturally. All this experience and observation reminding me of the experiential learning theory when we talk about the process where knowledge is created through transformation of the experience. And this pretty much applies in this situation. As I was saying earlier, we talk about watching others who do not have their experience, how they watch those more experienced and or the instructor. As it relates to the participant involvement, we talked earlier, and I felt that this was pretty much my biggest takeaway on the adult learners practicing this dance. It was, first of all, it was the personal adaptation. And that goes back to the situated cognition that is geared towards learning in practice. So yeah, as a dancer, you can see, you can observe, you can see the steps, but it's what you do in practice. It's also reflective on practice, and we talk about Sean's perspective. A learning is acquired through reflection in on practice, and in this case is reshaping what we are doing while we are doing it, and even goes farther to while they were doing the dance, the dancers were given corrective feedback from the instructor as well. And then the other side of the participant involvement, it's about mental stimulation. And I could relate a lot to the embodied learning, which is our intuitive, spontaneous process. So we adapt, we were saying earlier, the dancers were adapting their moves to their personal style. And that's pretty much goes to the mental stimulation. Now, going farther to the role of the instructors, I say it was a really nice lady. She was very open with me, and she allowed me to observe all the dance. And one of the things that she shared with me, which I thought it was amazing, I never thought about it. It was a booklet actually, that will have the dance moves. And this is just a tiny snapshot of the hula dance moves. And like it tells you how to move your hands, how to move your feet, how to move your hips. And most of the things that I learned from the instructor was she was talking about the learning steps. Okay, first you need to learn what are the steps and what are the moves. Then she was talking about the movement transformation, how to adapt those steps, because not only you adapt it to your personal style, but you also adapt it to the music in the background. And then the third thing that she was talking about is understanding the learning endpoint. When is the movement learned? When I really embrace that movement and then it comes naturally into my body. So this was pretty much her approach towards the experience with the learners. Talking about any positive or negative interpretations, the most positive thing that really hit me, the first thing I reached into the room was the atmosphere. As I said, the band, the outfits, and then the second things were the instruction of the dance moves, were the booklet with all the moves. I never thought, and I didn't know till now, that when you learn dance, you actually have some materials that you learn after, not only a visual, but there are some dancing steps. Again, I talked about the nice and older instructor. What are the negative interpretations were my observations? I wish there were more beginner dancers. The three ladies were pretty synchron with each other and kind of knew the moves. But I wish I would have seen how a very beginner or a beginner dancer would react to the practice. And I wish I would have practiced more myself to learn the moves. I think it was interesting to see everyone in the practice. So really quick, this was my observation. It was really a nice, inspiring experience just because I had to learn something new, but I also had to observe the learning process. And just tying everything with our experience in class, first of all, it reminded me of the communities at practice, where the learners come from different background. They have different kind of knowledge, which were the learners of this in this scenario, and they got together and they improved themselves. Then I was talking earlier about the reflective practice, and it's actually learning how to acquire and how to make all the moves, reading the steps, but also actually doing it. And then we talked about also the embodied learning, how in case of a dance, we are more spontaneous, we are more ingenious about it. So long story short, this was my experience. These were the references that I used for this presentation. Thank you so much, Dr. Brown, for the opportunity.